I'd now like to hand over to our final speaker, Amy Phillips. Thank you, Amy.
It's great. Thanks, Vanessa. And wow, that's a lot of information to take in so far this evening, and I'm really looking forward to going back and watching it again, particularly what you've just had to say, Tori. There's a lot there that I had no idea about, so that's fantastic. I guess just by way of introduction, as Vanessa said earlier, my name's Amy Phillips, and I'm a 46-year-old who lives in Canberra with my husband Simon and my 3 boys who are 10, 16 and 17. And, you know, through the course of this journey of mine, I have been incredibly blessed to have had my best friend walk with me and support me all the way. He shared every minute of every single challenge. And for those of you who do have your partners with you, you'll know too, like they walk every step of the path and they go through every challenge with you. And then when I said to my husband Simon, you know, tonight I'm going to come along, I'm going to speak on this topic, he wasn't super thrilled because I guess, let's be honest, it's a pretty personal and private thing to talk about. But I did assure him that I wouldn't talk about our sex life to the world, and you know that really that the audience is a kind one, and that those of you who are listening tonight, you know what we're going through, and you're probably treading a fairly similar path. And I guess one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, it's really important to hear the stories of other people as well, because then you know you're not on your own, and you know you're not alone when we face these challenges that this horrible disease throws at us. So just by way of context and give you a bit of information of where I've come from. So I was diagnosed in early 2020 with stage 3C ovarian cancer. And I headed off fairly quickly to have surgery in Sydney, and major surgery, so full hysterectomy, oophorectomy. I had 14 lymph nodes removed, and it was a really long recovery. Like it really did take months for that pain to go away. And as those of you who've had the surgery know, you end up with this dirty great scar that's sort of from your belly button down to the top of your pubic bone. And looking at that in the mirror to begin with, it's this constant reminder of what you've just experienced and where you're at, because obviously with that diagnosis comes that real initial shock and change of life. So then for me, I started pretty quickly. Within 6 weeks, I'd started my first lot of chemotherapy, and I had the standard carboplatin paclitaxel regimen once every 3 weeks, and that was really tough. Having 1 week out of 3 being completely flat, constantly, constipated. I suffered a lot with constipation, and I was still in pain, still recovering from the surgery to begin with. And I guess too, that was that first experience of losing my hair that came with that dreaded paclitaxel. And, I guess for me, I'd always had long hair, and that in terms of identity for me, it was my hair that made me feel attractive. I used to have long red hair to begin with, and then as I started to grey, long blonde hair. And for me, that was, I guess, really central to making me feel attractive. And so losing my hair, I thought, okay, we're going through this process to get to an end to make me well. I can do that. And so I embraced the whole idea of wigs. Thought, you beauty, this will be fun. I can try different colours, I can try different lengths, and I went wig shopping. Went down to the local wig shop where the lady there helps a lot of women with cancer, and I also did a bit of online shopping and learned very quickly that what you pay for is what you get when it comes to wigs. But I thought, well, I'll turn this into a bit of fun. And then I rocked up to try on these wigs, and that was great. And the lady there at the wig shop sort of said, oh, how about we clipper your hair off so that you can fit the wig on nicely. And by this stage, I had been to the hairdressers and had my hair cut short in anticipation of losing it. So that was one dramatic step. And I just sort of got caught in the moment and was like, yeah, sure. So then I've rocked up home with basically a bald head and a wig. And I had by that stage, I'd had a couple of old wigs in the cupboard that I'd used for certain things. And so I thought, great, I'll be able to change it up, I'll make my look different, until my 10-year-old said, no, I like that 1 wig, and that's the one you're wearing, and that's it. So I adopted the longish red, sort of burgundy red bob wig, and that was me for the time until I got through that lot of chemotherapy and my hair did start to grow back. And I guess too, like I would look in the mirror and I would think, you know, I don't know if I like what I see, and surely it looks obvious I've got a wig on, but nobody would know. But the point was I knew, and it wasn't what I wanted to look like. But then I sort of got through that lot of chemo, and you know I was well, and my hair started to grow back, and everything started to get back to normal. And then it was a case of, well, now I can start, you know, moving back into my sex life with my husband, which had really been on hold for the previous 6 months while I was recovering and going through that treatment period. Only then to find out within 5 months my cancer had come back, and it's now spread to the different lymph nodes throughout my body. So it was basically back into more chemotherapy, which was really, really scary at the time and really tough to know that it had come back. And oh my goodness, now what? Just when I'd started to get my life back on track and my hair had started to grow back and I was starting to feel more normal, here we go again. And I guess too, the hard part was it's now not about curing my cancer, it's now about monitoring and controlling. So therefore, I will live with this thing for the rest of my life. So, and around about this time, I started this next lot of chemo, which was a carbocalyx once every month regimen for 6 months. I had my port put in, and I think you can possibly see it here. It's quite pronounced and prominent. And when I first had it put in, that was basically what I would see in the mirror. Was I had gotten past looking at my scar to now having this dirty grey lump thing on my chest, and every time I looked in the mirror I saw it, and it just, you know, it really upset me, I think, more than it should have. I guess too, maybe because it was a reminder, and there's some other women I know who had a port as well, had said once they got through their cancer, after 12 months they had the port taken out, whereas I knew very much that if I'm going to live with this disease, then I won't be getting this port taken out, it'll be there forever. Which was really tough too. And so I guess after I had that next 6 months of chemo, I then, again, like I really, when you're going through that, I guess, and you would, you know, those of you who've had treatment know this, you don't feel like, the last thing you feel like doing is being intimate with your partner. And you know, you're cytotoxic 1 week out of 4, and my husband struggled with that. He didn't want to come near me in case I was giving off radiation to him, which again made it a bit of a challenge. But I guess we got through that 6 months, and then I had a few months break and I was back into weekly paclitaxel again. And I thought, oh, here we go, the bloody dreaded paclitaxel. And yes, my hair fell out again, but I thought this time I'm going to hold on. I'm not going to clipper it. We're going to see how much I can hang on to. But by the time I was pulling out, you know, in the shower, these handfuls of hair, I had to give in, and I ended up clippering myself, you know, gauge 4 or whatever it was, and try and keep a little bit of length on top, knowing that eventually it would grow back. But this time I lost all of my eyebrows, all of my eyelashes, all of my pubic hair, all the hair on my head. And I just remember standing in front of the mirror and going, my gosh, I feel like an alien, you know, like I almost feel asexual. There's nothing feminine about what I'm looking at right here, right now. And this is the being that hops into bed at night next to my husband. How on earth can he even find that attractive? Like, I can't find myself attractive. You know, so that was probably the lowest part for me. But you know, you get past that, and you know, I've finished the chemotherapy again now, and of course my hair's growing back and everything's kind of getting a little bit back to normal. And you know, the gift that keeps on giving, I guess I'm now at the point where I've developed a lymphedema, which adds a whole nother dimension for me. So I've got swelling down my leg, I have swelling in my pelvis, my genitals are swollen because of the lymphedema. And again, it comes back to, I think, you know, when it comes to feeling and having a libido and feeling like being sexual, nothing about my sexual organs at the moment is sexual. It is just all medical. And to the point where, you know, I'm showing doctors, I'm showing physiotherapists, this is, and there is nothing attractive about that at all. And I guess, you know, I have no sex drive, which probably comes from the medical menopause as well. Probably doesn't help, in all honesty. And I feel sad at times that I've lost that desire and I've lost that ability to connect with my husband in the way that we used to. And I feel guilty because ultimately I'm married to a 47-year-old man who's at the prime of his life, and he hasn't had any physical changes. And it's not unreasonable for him to expect that he could have sex with his wife of 20 years. Like, of course he should be able to, but we're just not there. And so we've had to think about what can we do differently. And we are pretty good at talking to one another, and we started to explore what else can we do so that his needs and urges can still be met. And he's very keen to do that for me too. But whereas I sort of say, well, at the moment, I've got nothing. I'm more than happy to just, to lie there and be cuddled by you. I'm happy to go for walks together, and we do, and we go and have lunch together, because we sort of, I guess we've come to this point of realising our life will never be what it once was. It can't be. The journey that we've been on, albeit one we wouldn't like to have taken had we chosen the path, it's changed where we are, and we just have to adapt. And of course, COVID's taught us that, if nothing else. Life will never be what it once was. And so I'm still here. I don't see my scar anymore. I don't notice my porch anymore, given the passage of time. And we do things differently. And we basically just embrace the fact that I'm here, and we still have that time together that we can spend together. So I really appreciated too hearing some of that information from earlier this evening, and maybe that'll give us an opportunity to try something new and just explore, as Amanda said, what sexuality is and what it means to us at this point in our lives. So, but thank you, Vanessa. It's been great to be able to give a little bit about my story.
Well, thank you so much, Amy, for giving us an insight into your journey and the challenges that you're facing. I know everyone on this webinar is so appreciative of you just being so open and honest and willing to share your story. I know it's not an easy topic to talk about, so very, very much appreciated. We just have one question, but before we do, someone has said your short blonde hair is absolutely fabulous. So there you go. And I agree. Just one question. Did any of your healthcare professionals talk to you about the impact of ovarian cancer on your relationship and on intimacy when you were first diagnosed?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question, because the short answer is no, really. And I guess I was so blessed, and as Amanda spoke about earlier, that OCA has the teal support program, because the first person that actually spoke to me about this topic at all was my teal support nurse, Di Keneally. And I've seen a lot of health professionals, and you see your oncologist, you see your surgeon, you've got your GP who's there in the mix, but I guess it's a question about who's the right person to talk to you about it, and at what point is it something that you want to discuss. Because obviously at the beginning, when you have your diagnosis, or you go into the into the cancer facility to learn about your treatment and what side effects are going to come, is that really the time you want to be hearing about this? And when you come in after having your surgery and you're lying in the hospital, the last thing you want is, someone coming up and, want to have someone talking to you about, your exercise or, getting up and moving and things. The last thing you want to hear at that point is, well, how is this going to affect your intimate relationship with your partner? So, I don't know. It's a funny point. Who is the best health professional to talk to you, and at what point is the best time for you to hear it? But I must admit, I've really appreciated building up a relationship with Di over the last probably 12, 18 months, and then having that relationship where we can talk about these sorts of things, because again, it's really not an easy topic to discuss with just anybody. And thank you so much to the person who said about my hair. That was lovely.
Thank you, Amy. Just one more question, if you have time. What's been the hardest part of your journey so far?
I actually think probably the hardest part of my journey was hearing that my cancer had come back. Because I guess at the beginning it was very much, I am going through this hell because it's going to make me better. And then to have heard in such a short time afterwards, having been told I was better, to then find out, well, actually cancer's come back, was probably the lowest part that I've experienced, both my husband and I together. And I guess it was good and bad though, because it was the catalyst for me that allowed me to really make that change. And I was really interested to hear Amanda say that about, you know, your thoughts and your patterns, and you're doing the same thing every day. I kind of really came to a point of clarity where I thought, well, you know, if I keep doing the same thing, and living my life the same way, how can I expect a different outcome? So it's really allowed me to open my mind to all manner of alternative, not treatments, but alternative approaches, I suppose, that I would never have considered in the past. I'm always have been a conventional medicine person, but I've started meditating, I've started exploring, you know, changing my diet, looking at my spirituality, getting some therapy from a formal point of view, looking, you know, for psychotherapy. And it's really helped me to make the rest of me healthy and in a better position to take on and manage and monitor this cancer, and to have a better attitude towards everything, every facet of my life. So yeah, whilst it was horrendous, I think it's actually really been a benefit in disguise.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy. We will leave the questions there, but just before we finish up, I've had a few comments. Amy's the most poised and well-spoken survivor I've heard. Thank you so much for sharing and your good attitude about life. And just one other I will share. I just want to thank Amy for her honesty and for sharing. I'm in a different stage, but have experienced similar thoughts and feelings. You've helped me considerably. Sorry. So thank you again, Amy. We really appreciate you giving up your time and for being so open and honest.
Thank you.
So I just want to say another big thank you to our speakers, Dr. Amanda Horden, Tori Wood-Valentima, and Amy Phillips. We really appreciate the information that you've shared this evening and for giving up your time. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's been on the webinar this evening. We really hope that you found it valuable. The recording of this webinar will be posted on our website in the next couple of weeks, and you will receive an email with a link to the recording in the next few days. In a moment, you will be directed to an evaluation form. If you could just take a moment to complete that form, it will help us to plan future webinars. Your feedback is extremely important to us. If you have any other questions that you would like addressed, please don't hesitate to contact our information and support line on 1300 660 334. So please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you again, everyone. We really hope that you found the webinar valuable, and we hope to see you for our next webinar in a few months' time. Enjoy your evening. Good night.